My big brother used to follow you? Han Huang asked curiously. He had long heard of Han Tuo, but he had never seen him before. The evil heavenly emperor smiled and nodded. Han Huang shook his head. Forget it. Although you treat me very well, you're not strong. I don't want to follow you. No one in this world is worth following other than my parents. The evil heavenly emperor was stunned. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du's expression became subtle. The evil heavenly emperor said, "It's good to go out and broaden your horizons. Your father is busy with seclusion and doesn't have the time to take care of you." Han Huang said, "I also want to enter seclusion. Cultivation is the foundation. I won't go out if I don't cultivate to be the strongest." The evil heavenly emperor couldn't help but look at Hanju. Hanju smiled and said, "This is his own idea. I brought him to the immortal world previously. He lost interest in a few days and wanted to go back." Han Huang nodded. "I've already mastered the sage sense and observed the chaos. Although I don't know everything, the chaos doesn't interest me for now." The father and son sat side by side, looking like brothers. Han Huang smiled. He was indeed looking forward to meeting his brother. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du asked, "There's an additional sage position in the Heavenly Tao. Should we let Han Huang?" Hanju shook his head. "There's no need. With his personality, it's impossible for him to manage the Heavenly Tao. Let him stay by my side. As for the sage position, you can arrange it yourself." Curious, Han Huang asked, "What is the sage position?" "It's none of your business," Hanju replied casually. Then, the evil heavenly emperor pulled Han Huang to the side as if he was an elder concerned about a junior. He asked about his father's well-being while Hanju and Heavenly Venerate Xian Du talked about the Heavenly Tao. Now that the chaos was peaceful, the Heavenly Tao could develop freely. The immortal world was only so big. The number of things that could be interfered with by sages was limited, so after new sages appeared, they were all responsible for opening a chaotic heavenly road. Hanju was satisfied with Heavenly Venerate Xian Du's conclusion. He praised, "The Heavenly Tao is truly fortunate to have the Heavenly Venerate. Come to my Tao field if you have the time in the future. I will preach the Tao for you and help you embark on the Great Tao as soon as possible." Visit novubin.cm for the L-test updates. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du was pleasantly surprised and hurriedly thanked him. His contact with Laozi had decreased ever since he had chosen the Heavenly Tao. As for being taught again, that was almost impossible. He was also too embarrassed to mention it. Several hours later, Hanju, Han Huang, and the evil heavenly emperor walked out of the Universal Hall. The evil heavenly emperor looked at Han Huang and smiled dotingly. "Don't forget our agreement." Han Huang waved his hand and said, "Don't worry. I'll be the first to find you if I go to the chaos." He looked so heroic that Hanju wanted to laugh. The evil heavenly emperor left after exchanging some pleasantries. Hanju then brought Han Huang back to the 100-peak Immortal River. He thought for a moment and then brought him to the second Tao field. Li Yao and Tao Comprehension Sword were still cultivating in the Taoist temple. Sensing Han Huang's aura, they immediately opened their eyes. Their eyes lit up and they immediately stood up. "Wow, is this your second son?" Tao Comprehension Sword approached Han Huang, scaring him away. Hanju smiled. "That's right. His name is Han Huang. Huanger, these two are your third and fourth mothers." "Fourth mother?" Tao Comprehension Sword's face instantly turned red. Han Huang bowed. Although he was proud, he was still very polite to his own family. Li Yao and Tao Comprehension Sword had already learned of Han Huang's potential in the Myriad Worlds projection. They were not the only ones. The personal disciples were the same. They had long wanted to see him. They were naturally happy to see him today. After a conversation, Han Huang also began to call them third mother and fourth mother. Then, the four of them walked out of the Taoist temple. Hanju gathered all the Fiend Celestials. Currently, there were 51 chaotic Fiend Celestials in the second Tao field. There was also one being nurtured in the primordial world. The scene was spectacular after the Fiend Celestials gathered. Han Huang narrowed his eyes and sized them up. Is this the second young master? He does look like master. Hanju saw through everyone's thoughts, so he said, yes, he's my second son, Han Huang. He was born as freedom and has a special bloodline. Your bloodlines have already been raised to the top level of the chaos. It's easy for you to be hostile to each other, but this is only a conflict between bloodlines, so I'm letting you know in advance. In the future, you still have to support each other on the path of cultivation. The Fiend Celestials immediately felt relieved and nodded upon hearing this. Morochi took a step forward and smiled. Grandmaster, why don't you let him stay with us for a period of time? The other Fiend Celestials hooted. Hanju said, that's my intention. With that, Hanju turned around and returned to the Taoist temple, leaving Han Huang surrounded by everyone. Guanbubi stared at Han Huang and said, Junior, you're very strong. Shall we spar? Han Huang glanced at him and shook his head. Then, he walked in front of the heavenly constellation Fiend Celestial and said, you're the strongest. Let's spar. This scene surprised everyone. The heavenly constellation Fiend Celestial was indeed the strongest. He had been suppressed by Morochi in the past and had only recently surpassed him. Guanbubi curled his lips and looked unhappy, but he did not dare to refute. He had always been tortured by the heavenly constellation Fiend Celestial and was already a younger brother. Only he was stubborn in the second Tao field. He dared to keep fighting the heavenly constellation Fiend Celestial. As they fought, he developed feelings. All right. The heavenly constellation Fiend Celestial agreed readily. The two of them directly entered the simulation trial and began sparring. Several dozen breaths later, the simulation ended. The two of them opened their eyes and frowned. Guanbubi smiled. How about it? Little junior brother, you should spar with me. Han Huang ignored him and stared at the heavenly constellation Fiend Celestial. You're very strong, stronger than Jiangjueshi. The heavenly constellation Fiend Celestial took a deep breath and said, I'm not your match. Everyone was shocked. The heavenly constellation Fiend Celestial was defeated? Oh my god, what kind of pervert has Master given birth to? He isn't even 10,000 years old yet, right? The Black Hell Chicken shouted, expressing everyone's thoughts. I'm indeed not 10,000 years old, but you're not bad either. At least, you've impressed me. You seem to contain different powers. Come, let's spar one by one. Han Huang scanned the Fiend Celestials and smiled. The Fiend Celestials had no objections to this. In any case, they wouldn't die in the simulation trial. It just so happened that they wanted to test Han Huang's strength. Just like that, Han Huang quickly became friends with the Fiend Celestials. On the other side, Hanju was preaching to Li Yao and Tao Comprehension Sword in the Taoist temple. He left with Han Huang 10 years later. The Fiend Celestials were all convinced by Han Huang's talent. Hanju estimated that if he abdicated in the future, the position of sect master of the hidden sect would probably go to Han Huang. At least, Han Huang had the support of the 51 chaotic Fiend Celestials. Back in the third Tao field, Han Huang curled his lips and said, Why must you bring me back? I want to stay there. Hanju scolded jokingly. Of course, you find it interesting that you bully them every day. Think about it, would you find it interesting if you were always defeated by Jiangjueshi? He's definitely not my match now. Call him over. Han Huang said angrily. His pride also had grown as he grew up. The defeat back then was his only humiliation. Hanju said, "What? You still hate him? Are you so petty?" Han Huang snorted. "Of course not. How can I hate him since we're fellow disciples? I just can't accept that I lost. Go out and find a place to cultivate. Don't stay beside me in the future. From today onwards, I will resume my seclusion. My seclusion lasts for 100,000 years every time." Hanju waved his hand. 100,000 years? Han Huang's eyes lit up, and the corners of his mouth curled up. He immediately bowed and walked out of the palace. Hanju heaved a sigh of relief. He could finally cultivate in peace. Hanju only believed in one principle, which was to rely on himself. Hanju still didn't know his limit ever since he had evolved into the ultimate origin fiend celestial. Previously, insta-killing the 100,000 foolish sword sages was not his limit. Now was a good time to try. Hanju entered the simulation trial. He directly fought 150,000 foolish sword sages. How terrifying were 150,000 Great Tao Supreme experts. At first, Hanju was suppressed, but he gained the upper hand not long after. In the end, he used 5 minutes to kill all 150,000 foolish sword sages. Hanju continued to challenge. He could kill 150,000 foolish sword sages in 3 breaths after hundreds of times. This was already the limit. After all, a Great Tao Supreme was not immortal. It would be even harder to kill all 150,000 Great Tao Supremes if this was reality. After all, a Great Tao Supreme would escape. The opponents in the simulation trial would only die in battle. Hanju was in high spirits and continued cultivating after confirming his strength. He could instantly kill 150,000 foolish sword sages if he broke through. The sea of clouds surrounded the mountains and overlapped like steps that led to the sky. On a mountainside, Dao Sovereign, Zhao Xianyuan, Jiang Yi, Lao Dan, Han Tuo, and Yi Tian were drinking and chatting in the pavilion. In that case, that kid called Han Huang will reach the Great Tao realm soon? TSK, his potential is indeed ridiculous. Why isn't Han Tuo so powerful? Yi Tian swirled his wine and clicked his tongue in wonder. Han Tuo smiled helplessly. My father's cultivation level was worlds apart from when he gave birth to me and my younger brother. There's naturally a difference in our potential. Loud inside. Such potential is no longer ridiculous. It's truly unprecedented. Jiang Yi smiled. Little Junior has such a start. I wonder if he can cultivate patiently. The others discussed. Han Huang became the main topic. Han Tuo smiled. Although he had never seen Han Huang, he liked his younger brother very much. How could he not like the fact that this little brother was a topic to brag about ever since he was born? Not long after, everyone put down the topic of Han Huang and started to talk about serious matters. You want to go to the bottom of the chaos? Han Tuo frowned. Loudon smiled and said, Don't worry, just let us in. We won't trouble you later. Dao Sovereign nodded. Zhao Xianyuan sighed. I feel like I'm going to be in trouble again. Dao Sovereign glared at him, signaling him to shut up. Yi Tian said, The bottom of the chaos is very dangerous. We almost died there. Even the leader of the divine spirits is afraid of that place. Loudon smiled leisurely. Don't worry. My main body has been there before, but it's been sealed recently. I can't find the entrance. I want to seek opportunities for these 3 brats. After all, the chaotic assembly is getting closer and closer. Chaotic assembly. Now, this meeting had already attracted the attention of the entire chaos. Even the 5 great divine punishers had to participate and represent the ultimate god of punishment to prove themselves. Han Tuo glanced at the 3 of them and hesitated for a moment before nodding. Seeing this, Dao Sovereign and Jiang Yi smiled. Zhao Xianyuan sighed. Yi Tian suddenly asked, will Han Huang participate in the chaotic assembly? If he obtains the eternal peak at a few million years old. He was especially interested in Han Huang. Everyone looked at each other, not knowing how to reply. They wanted to say that it was impossible, but Han Huang was born with unlimited possibilities. For a time, the pavilion fell silent. They suddenly realized that Han Huang might be the strongest opponent. Time passed quickly. 100,000 years passed in the blink of an eye. Hanju opened his eyes. Surprise flashed across them. What a domineering ultimate origin fiend celestial. His cultivation speed far exceeded that of before. It was at least 10 times faster. At this rate, he would soon break through to the late-stage Great Tao Supreme Realm. His bloodline was 2 levels higher than the top geniuses in the chaos, so his cultivation speed was naturally the fastest. Hanju glanced at Han Huang in the Taoist temple next door. This kid was actually a Great Tao sage already. He needed to step into the door of the Great Tao after attaining the Great Tao. Would this kid cause trouble? Hanju was busy cultivating, so he ignored the chaos. He pinched his fingers to deduce and smiled. The divine robe Taoist is not bad. It turned out that before Han Huang broke through the door of the Great Tao, the divine robe Taoists had arrived behind the door to help him. With him around, naturally, no Great Tao sage or Great Tao divine spirit stopped Han Huang. Visit NOV CM for the L-test updates. Han Huang broke through very smoothly and even became friends with the divine robe Taoist. The 2 of them agreed to meet when they had time. The divine robe Taoist was very sensible. Hanju suddenly thought of something and asked in his mind, other than me, does anyone know that Han Huang is the primordial fiend celestial? 3 quadrillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. No! Hanju heaved a sigh of relief. On second thought, it made sense. With the rampage of the Divine Authority Generals, the legend of the misfortune of the primordial fiend celestial had long collapsed. All living beings thought that the primordial fiend celestial was fabricated. As for Han Huang's potential, all living beings could understand it with the divine might heavenly sage's reputation. Now, it depended on what the Tao creators thought. The Tao creators would not make a move as long as Han Huang could not threaten the entire chaos. In the eyes of all living beings, they did not know the existence of the Tao creator at all. Not to mention the Great Tao Supreme Realm, they thought that the Great Tao Sage Realm was the apex. Will Han Huang be targeted by the Tao creators if he participates in the chaotic assembly? 1 quadrillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Hanju silently chose to continue as he looked at the line of words in front of him. No! Hanju heaved a sigh of relief. He suddenly became interested in the Tao creator's perspective. What kind of danger could make them unable to sit still? Previously, the chaotic consciousness still did not make a move when he killed 20,000 Divine Authority Generals. This could only mean one thing. The difference between the Great Tao Supreme Realm and the Tao Creator Realm was unimaginable. It was precisely because the difference was too great that the Tao creators felt that everything was certain. Hanju stopped thinking about this question. He would naturally understand when he reached the Tao creator level. He opened the emails and checked them. It had been a long time since he had read them. Your good friend Huang Zuntian has obtained a huge amount of faith power. His cultivation has increased greatly. Your good friend Pan Xin received guidance from your good friend Pan Gu. He has learned a great Tao mystical power. Your grand disciple Chpter has entered the ancient desolate. Your good friend Divine Lord Peacock was attacked by a mysterious mighty figure. His Tao soul was damaged. Your good friend Divine Lord Peacock has been deprived of his connate origin. His intelligence has been sealed. Your good friend Immortal Emperor Samsara received guidance from a mysterious mighty figure. His providence has increased greatly. Your disciple Tao Sovereign has entered the bottom of the chaos. The recent emails were very harmonious. There were no large-scale attacks. Hanju's attention was attracted by Divine Lord Peacock. This fellow had been suppressed for a period of time and had yet to escape. It seemed like he couldn't hold on much longer. No matter what, this fellow was the Dark Forbidden Lord's pawn. He couldn't fall behind. Hanju thought for a moment and sent a dream to Divine Lord Peacock in the image of the Dark Forbidden Lord. Divine Lord Peacock's intelligence had been sealed, but that was only because it couldn't fuse with his body and not because his rationality had been erased. In the dream, Divine Lord Peacock saw the Dark Forbidden Lord and immediately heaved a sigh of relief. Then, he looked ashamed. All these years, he used all sorts of methods, but he still could not escape. He had wanted to seek help from the Dark Forbidden Lord countless times, but he was afraid of losing face and could only endure. Hanju asked, "Why did you go to the ancient desolate? Who suppressed you?" Divine Lord Peacock did not dare to be careless anymore and told him everything. He was even more ashamed. He didn't know who the other party was. Hanju said, "Just wait." He removed the dream. Hanju began to use the derivation function. He sent a dream first to tell Divine Lord Peacock that he was the one who helped him and affirm his loyalty. 1 trillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? 1 trillion years of lifespan. It was equivalent to lousy. He didn't expect such an existence to be hiding in the ancient desolate. Continue. Hanju thought silently. If the other party was too strong, he could only give up on Divine Lord Peacock. There was no need to risk everything for him. He had already saved Divine Lord Peacock before, but this fellow was useless. Hanju would have long given up on him if not for the fact that he had contributed to pestering the cursed fiend Celestial. A figure appeared in Hanju's mind and a line of words appeared in front of him. Indeed, his cultivation level is the same as mine. Such an existence was actually suppressed by the Tao Ancestor. Could the Tao Ancestor be a Tao creator? Hanju checked his interpersonal relationships. The portrait of the Tao Ancestor was still black and his cultivation was still unknown. Hanju asked in his mind, is the Tao Ancestor a Tao creator? Unable to capture the karma. Perhaps it doesn't exist. What a Tao Ancestor? Is there a Tao Ancestor among the 5 great Tao creators? Unable to capture the karma. Perhaps it doesn't exist. Hanju could only give up and focus on Ancestor Tiansu. Can I insta-kill Ancestor Tiansu? 1 trillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Yes. That was fine. Hanju immediately sent a dream to Ancestor Tiansu in the image of the Dark Forbidden Lord. He would talk first. He would consider destruction if that didn't work. It wasn't easy for everyone to cultivate. It was fine as long as the karma could be resolved. Hanju didn't want to be stained with hostility. In the dream, covered in black, Hanju saw Ancestor Tiansu. Ancestor Tiansu had white hair and wore a tattered gray robe. Although his clothes were ragged, his temperament was still extraordinary. Especially his eyes. They were filled with dignity, as if they could see through everything in the world. Ancestor Tiansu frowned in surprise upon seeing him. The other party could actually forcefully pull him into a dream. He was quite capable. However, he didn't know the Dark Forbidden Lord. He sighed at the rise of the younger generation. He had been suppressed by the Tao ancestor for a long time. It was not surprising that a new mighty figure had appeared in the chaos. Hanju was the first to speak. Fellow Taoist, my subordinate accidentally entered the ancient desolate and offended you. He was suppressed by you for so many years and has been punished. Why don't you let him go? Patriarch Tiansu narrowed his eyes and asked, Who are you talking about? Divine Lord Peacock. Oh, so it's him. This little peacock keeps saying that he has a backing, but I didn't see anyone. I thought he was bluffing, but it's true. What do you think, fellow Taoist? Ancestor Tiansu didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stared at Hanju, thinking about something. Hanju was not in a hurry. After a long while, Ancestor Tiansu asked, What's your name, fellow Taoist? I'm Ancestor Tiansu. Perhaps you've never heard of me. Hanju said, All living beings call me the Dark Forbidden Lord. As for your name, I naturally know it. Otherwise, how can I visit you in your dreams? As the founder of the Heavenly Ruins Divine World, you created the first world in the chaos, but your fate is not good. Hanju asked, Is it related to the Tao ancestor? Ancestor Tiansu was moved and narrowed his eyes. He suddenly flew into a rage. Tao ancestor. Ha ha ha. What sort of Tao ancestor is he? Don't mention him anymore. That's all. I'll send that little peacock out of the ancient desolate. The dream shattered. Hanju opened his eyes. He didn't expect Ancestor Tiansu to be so emotional. However, he shouldn't go back on his word since he didn't hate him. Since he had nothing to do, Hanju continued to visit his dreams. This time, his target was Huang Zuantian. He used his main body this time. In the dream, it had been a long time. Huang Zuantian had already changed his attitude. His aura was not weaker than the divine robed Taoist. Huang Zuantian was not excited to see Hanju. He asked, I have an opportunity. Do you want it? Hanju rolled his eyes. No. Huang Zuantian immediately knelt excitedly. Hanju asked about his recent situation. Huang Zuantian didn't hide anything and told him everything. Huang Zuantian had already taken charge of most of the Calamity Life controllers. Even Ancestor Shitian, Li Daokong, Shi Dudao, and the others were under him. Hanju had no choice but to size him up again upon hearing that Ancestor Shitian and the others were also subdued by him. Unknowingly, Huang Zuantian was already powerful enough to break Hanju's impression of him. Before this, in Hanju's heart, Ancestor Shitian was definitely stronger than Huang Zuantian. Hanju suddenly wanted to calculate his future. Huang Zuantian talked about his experiences in high spirits. He was no longer the mortal who had crawled around in the Jie school. To Hanju, time passed very quickly, but to Huang Zuantian, time passed very slowly. He looked extremely glorious now, but in fact, he had paid an unimaginable price and effort. He felt tired when he recalled it. Scheming, power struggles, persuasion, and so on. He took every step very carefully, afraid that he would fail. Huang Zuantian changed the topic and suddenly said seriously, Master, my subordinates discovered something recently, something unusual that might endanger the chaos. Hanju didn't say anything. This fellow actually learned to keep people in suspense. Hanju narrowed his eyes and fell into deep thought. Could it be that Ancestor Tiansu was brewing a plan to take revenge on the Tao ancestor? It was very likely. The ancient desolate is a forbidden land. Some time ago, many mighty figures died inside, so no one is paying attention to it anymore. It was after this that the speed at which the Tao devils in the ancient desolate increased far exceeded before. Such an increase in power must be for a reason. Most importantly, I didn't find out the mastermind behind them. I only know that the ancestor Tiansu who created the first world in the chaos was also a Tao devil and was the strongest one, Huang Zuntian said with a solemn expression. He seemed to have fought with ancestor Tiansu before, and his eyes revealed fear. Hanju's expression changed slightly. Ancestor Tiansu was a Tao devil? Could it be that there was someone else behind this? The great Tao divine spirits no longer chased after the life faction after the primordial ancestor god died. This gave them a chance to rest. Huang Zuntian said, I plan to establish a lineage and live in seclusion. I'll make plans when the lineage is perfected. The current chaos looks peaceful, but I feel that there are undercurrents. Hanju nodded. It's indeed time to settle down. Time will erase everything. The two of them chatted for a while more before he removed the dream. This dream was mainly to tell Huang Zuntian that he still cared about him. Hanju opened his eyes and asked in his mind, I want to know who's behind the Tao devils. 100 trillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? 100 trillion years was equivalent to 100 times stronger than Laozi and 10 times weaker than a Tao creator. It was not ancestor Tiansu. Hanju immediately chose to continue. Ancient desolate divine spirit, perfected great Tao supreme realm, half-step creator, transcendent Tao expert, spirit of heaven and earth, lord of negative karma, lord of Tao devils, heavenly Tao evil spirit. Half-step creator. How impressive! Hanju was attracted by the words heavenly Tao evil spirit. Was this fellow related to the heavenly Tao? It made sense when he thought about it carefully. The ancient desolate was formed by the shattering of the primordial world. Most of it had transformed into the ancient desolate, and the remaining transformed into the immortal world. The ancient desolate spirit was naturally related to the heavenly Tao. The heavenly Tao did not seem powerful in the chaos, but it was deliberately suppressed by the Tao ancestor. In fact, the heavenly Tao was ancient. They could cultivate to the top of the chaos if it was any other living being. Can I insta-kill the ancient desolate divine spirit? 100 trillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. No! Hanju was a little disappointed. However, on second thought, it made sense. After all, the other party was already half-step into the creator realm. He wasn't someone a great Tao Supreme could kill. Hanju didn't think too much about it. He would wait for Divine Lord Peacock to escape. Then, he would directly inform him and let him worry. After all, the Lord of Chaos was the ultimate god of punishment, not him, the divine might heavenly sage. Then, Hanju closed his eyes and continued cultivating. Under the old tree, Han Qinger stared at the distant disciples in boredom. She yawned and muttered, Why isn't second brother out of seclusion yet? Is seclusion so fun? At her side, Qingwaner smiled and said, Your second brother has great ambitions. How can he be like you, cultivating diligently like your father one moment and feeling bored the next? She believed that any prodigy would lose their confidence when they saw Han Huang, especially when this fellow was her biological brother. Qingwaner covered her mouth and laughed. At this moment, Han Huang's Taoist temple suddenly opened. A figure slowly walked out and arrived in front of them in a few steps. Han Qinger looked at the person in front of her and was stunned. It was Han Huang. He was handsome and tall. His eyes were filled with arrogance. His white robe fluttered and his black hair was tied behind his head with a thin rope. Not only was his talent unparalleled, but so was his temperament. Han Huang smiled. Qinger, I've already attained the great Tao and even created my own mystical power. Am I powerful? Impressive, impressive. Han Qinger said perfunctorily, but she was shocked inside. She knew that Han Huang was monstrous, but she didn't expect him to be talented to this extent. Great Tao! Han Qing'er's heart ached. She was like a mortal in front of her second brother. Han Qing'er immediately beamed. The sorrow in her heart vanished. She punched Han Huang's chest and scolded him jokingly. At least you have a conscience. Han Huang said, of course. Han Huang had liked to stick to Han Qing'er ever since he was young. The two of them had never left home, so their relationship was naturally not distant. Han Huang chatted with Qing Waner and Han Qing'er for a while before bidding farewell to visit his mother, Xing Hongshan. It was mainly to show off his gains. However, Xing Hongshan was indifferent, making him secretly angry. It was still his third mother who gave him face. Eldest mother was Xing Hongshan, second mother was Xian Qingjun, third mother was Qing Waner, fourth mother was Li Yao, and fifth mother was Dao Comprehension Sword. This was a relationship that Hanju later sorted out. Han Huang made up his mind to visit Qing Waner instead of Xing Hongshan in the future. He walked out of his mother's Taoist temple and was about to return to Cultivate when he suddenly looked up. At this moment, countless sailboats were sailing over from outside the universe of stars. Every sailboat carried thousands of living beings with different postures. They looked like humans and demons. Sailboats followed the same direction in the vast void. On the deck of a huge sailboat at the front stood a middle-aged Taoist. 10 palm-sized stone slabs circled around his body like a puzzle, mysterious and unfathomable. Visit NOVUBIN, CM for the L-test updates. The middle-aged Taoist stared at the beautiful star universe ahead and frowned. A living being with a snake body and human head beside him smiled and said, I didn't expect such a heavens beyond to be hidden in the chaos. It's very suitable for us races to survive. The middle-aged Taoist said, something's wrong. There are no powerful restrictions nearby, and there's no aura of living beings inside. Why aren't there any other races here? The snake-headed man said, the chaos is endless. It's normal that it's not discovered by living beings. That's true, but it's better to be careful. The middle-aged Taoist hesitated. The snake-headed man nodded and went down to pass the order. At the same time, in the third Dao field, Han Huang looked at the races outside the universe with a happy expression. Freedom Sage, you can give me a chance to practice and eat, Han Huang muttered to himself. He jumped and wanted to rush out. Boom! The invisible Dao field array formation in the sky blocked him. The sky rippled, startling all the disciples in the Dao field. Han Qing'er was surprised. What was this kid trying to do? She looked up and quickly saw the mysterious race outside the universe. Second brother, don't worry. There won't be any danger with Jiang Jieshi around, Han Qing'er shouted. She had previously witnessed Jiang Jieshi taking action to resist the enemy. Han Huang frowned when he heard that. He didn't continue to fight the Dao field array formation. He turned around and flew in front of Hanju's Taoist temple. He wanted to enter and asked him to let him out, but he couldn't open the door. Hanju was busy cultivating and couldn't be disturbed. Han Huang was moved. He was already a great Dao sage, but he couldn't open this door. He knew that his father was very strong, but he didn't expect him to still be so strong that he couldn't even tell how much. He was already a great Dao sage, but he couldn't even open the door of a Taoist temple? Han Huang didn't believe it. He gritted his teeth and continued pushing, using all his strength. However, he couldn't open the door no matter how hard he tried. Even using the Divine Might Great Heaven Palm was useless. Han Huang let go and left. He returned to his Taoist temple to cultivate in seclusion. At the same time, Jiang Jieshi moved out of the universe. Han Qing'er began to watch the battle. Jiang Jieshi was already invincible in the Freedom Realm. The leader of the other party's race was only a freedom sage, so he was naturally not his match. The battle did not last long. Jiang Jueshi easily won. Han Qing'er sighed. No wonder he can suppress second brother. He's indeed powerful. She was very respectful every time she watched Jiang Jueshi's battle. Qing Waner also witnessed the battle and praised him. As expected of your father's disciple. He should be your father's most proud disciple, right? Han Qing'er shook her head. Not necessarily. I heard from second brother that Jiang Jueshi is at most in the top 10 under father. Qing Waner shook her head and laughed. Han Qing'er glanced at her and couldn't help but ask, Mother, you don't seem to be curious about father? Be careful not to let father find a few more women. Qing Waner smiled. So be it. Your father has been filled with mystery ever since I met him. I like him to be mysterious. Reviving is already something I didn't dare to think about in the past. How can I disturb your father's cultivation? Han Qing'er curled her lips. She couldn't understand her mother, but she didn't say anything. Everyone had their own choices. Han Qing'er wondered how heroic her husband would be. No! Her father was the strongest. It was fine as long as he was 80% as good as him. Another 100,000 years passed. Hanju opened his eyes. His cultivation had improved greatly. He first sent a dream to Divine Lord Peacock and confirmed that he had escaped. Divine Lord Peacock kept kowtowing to him in the dream. He told him about the ancient desolate divine spirit. I already know about this. The ancient desolate divine spirit is very powerful. I'm not his match, the ultimate god of punishment said with a solemn expression. This was also why he did not dare to personally go to the ancient desolate. Hanju raised his eyebrows. He knew that the ultimate god of punishment was not the ancient desolate divine spirit's match. The difference in value was huge. He only wanted him to prepare early. The ultimate god of punishment said helplessly, Fellow Taoist, you should be able to see that there are many areas in the chaos that can't be spied on. The mighty figures hidden are immeasurable. After all, the chaos has existed for a long time, so long that it's impossible to calculate the time. Hanju remained silent. Why did he feel that the ultimate god of punishment was weaker now? On second thought, it made sense. In the past, the ultimate god of punishment had challenged high-level figures and had far fewer enemies than the primordial ancestor god. Now that he was sitting in the primordial ancestor god's position, countless eyes were staring at him. The pressure was far greater than before, and he did not dare to act recklessly. I will be careful about this matter. Thank you for your reminder, fellow Taoist. You don't have to worry. I also have a certain understanding of the ancient desolate. It can't harm the chaos for now, the ultimate god of punishment said seriously. His tone was sincere, as if he was touched by Hanju's gesture. Hanju didn't believe that he would be touched and immediately chatted with him. He opened his eyes after ending the dream. From the ultimate god of punishment's words, could this fellow have a good relationship with the ancient desolate divine spirit? He should be uneasy even if he couldn't win, but he was so calm. It was very likely that they were on good terms. Hanju didn't have the urge to spend his lifespan to derive it. It was fine even if he didn't guess correctly. In any case, he was on good terms with the ultimate god of punishment, which was equivalent to being on good terms with the ancient desolate divine spirit. It had nothing to do with him who was the boss in the chaos as long as they didn't provoke him. He could hide in the Tao field even if they wanted to provoke him. No one could barge into his Tao field in the entire chaos, including the Tao creators. Hanju began to check his emails and paid attention to the recent developments in his circle of friends. Fog covered the sky in a dark world. The ground was flat and vast. Tao Sovereign, Zhao Xinyuan, and Jiang Yi sat together. Loudon stood not far away and looked around. There's no danger, right? I already told you. Don't worry, my treasure is reliable. It will definitely inform us if any dangerous aura approaches. Zhao Shenyuan smiled. Loudon snorted. Your treasure might work elsewhere, but not here. Zhao Shenyuan shook his head and laughed. Jiangyi said, I really feel like something is staring at us. Could it be the fellow who hunted us earlier? No way. How long has it been? We've been recuperating for 1,000 years. Zhao Shenyuan frowned and felt uneasy. It was difficult for them to predict good things, but one would be more accurate than the other if it was something unlucky. The more Zhao Shenyuan thought about it, the more uneasy he became. He suddenly stood up and looked around, afraid that an enemy would appear. Jiangyi sighed. I'm already prepared to be injured.